I'm Jim Durst, Superintendent of the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our campus. We're delighted that Governor Holcomb chose our school to present his agenda this morning. We're proud to be part of a state under the leadership of Governor Holcomb that values and is committed to providing quality educational programs for students and for ensuring that the needs of Indiana students who are blind, visually impaired, deaf, and hard of hearing will be addressed well into the future. Since 1847, the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired has served Hoosier children. Thanks to the leadership of Governor Holcomb and the Indiana General Assembly, by 2030, this building and campus will operate as the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired and the Indiana School for the Deaf. Our school, which is one of the largest schools for the blind in the country based on the number of students served, offers both on-campus and off-campus programs to students who are blind or visually impaired residing in Indiana. The school provides students with the same coursework and instruction required of all school-age children in Indiana, in addition to the expanded core and vision-specific curriculum. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the 51st Governor of the state of Indiana, Eric J. Holcomb.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim, for hosting us first and foremost in this magnificent auditorium. It's the perfect kind of backdrop and venue for what we've all been about for the last 7, now going on 8 years, making sure that we're preparing students for those next steps in life. And thank you for your, I won't exactly date you, but your over 3 decades of service. You trace this back to 1847, and I saw a memorial plaque out front from 1938, and the General Assembly and I are flat out excited about where we're heading, and by 2023, this is one of the biggest capital improvement projects that the state has ever undertaken. And it's because of your stewardship and your whole crew that has not just been accommodating to us for this, but to so many students who are getting off on the right first steps and on the right path. So thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone here. I see so many familiar faces, and this is also just so appropriate that you are here, because I'm going to start off with this Hoosier playbook before I land on the agenda specific items. But the playbook was really born out of conversations with people here on the ground in very specific zip codes, border to border. And when I see Marcy and from Owen County, and I see Heather and from Lake County, and I see Wendy from New Albany, Clark, Floyd County area, one southern Indiana. When I see Mark Fisher from the Realtors Association, you'll see where all this information is coming from soon, but it's coming from the ground, and it's coming from the ground up. And that's why this playbook works. That's why it's underscores just how important collaboration is and partnering can be. It's what's gotten our state to the position that we're in. And I have outlined this in 12 pieces. Your puzzle might have 15 pieces. Your puzzle might have 8 pieces. You might combine some of the pieces, but ultimately this will be very interactive. This will be focused, looking through a lens of our customers, citizens, and local leaders, how they may access all the programs that the legislature year after year after year appropriates dollars to, programs that really do make a difference. And in getting around the state over these last 7 years. I've just come to notice whether it's a local government or a philanthropic organization, local leaders, some know about some of the programs, some don't know about some of the programs. And so how can we better connect chambers, local leaders, et cetera, in a very easy way where it's simply you're clicking on a program and they're organized in a pretty straightforward fashion. So I'm going to dive into these very kind of at a high level, but the 12 pieces, as I've gotten around, start with, obviously, the first 5, quite frankly, are pretty foundational. They're the health and the education levels, skill levels of an individual that then ultimately have a huge impact collectively. And so various programs, and we are coming off of our Health First Indiana program that is designed and built again from the ground up locally. But then there's a lot of other programs like the Nurse Family Partnership, the My Healthy Baby program. I don't see Lindsay. I do see Lindsay. Lindsay, we're finally, as of May, right, we're in all 92 counties. So locals can take advantage of these resources. And when I use that word advantage very purposely, but they also include others, and there will be more added to this list, but I wanted to keep the font so that you could read it. But lead testing and disability services and assistance, smoking cessation, the list just goes on and on and on, but just realize that there are Hoosiers taking advantage of those programs. And just as important as our physical health is our mental health. And again, the legislature in these recent years have really leaned into this, rightly so, to make sure that we're not just providing awareness, but also access to programs that can make a difference. If someone is wanting to get clean or to get well, I want them to know that there are people, real people, not just a website, not just a let me put you on hold, but real people that want to help them get well. And we're trying to make it as easy and seamless as possible statewide, whether it's urban, rural, or suburban environments. And so we'll continue to look for ways to increase awareness of these various programs so that folks know there are beds available and they're closer than they've ever been before. We then move into the status of how skilled are we, how educated are we, county by county by county. We know that when we're trying to land a deal, they're looking at how healthy is the workforce, how skilled is the workforce, how educated is the workforce. And those are strong magnetic forces to where they ultimately make their decision. And that's a global, I'm looking at Rolls Royces in the house here, and the conversations that we have revolve around these first 5. We get the tax and the regulatory environment, but it really comes down to the people that are going to ensure that the business is able to grow. And so we've worked very hard and will continue to make sure that we can expand our child care, our early learning providers and services so more people can participate in the workforce. And that means more access to programs like On My Way Pre-K and making sure that we're kindergarten ready, and the Imagination Library, which with the help of folks in the legislature and Dolly Parton herself, we've grown that program already from 43 to I think it's now 71 counties, where 90,000 kiddos got a book last month, personalized, sent to their home. So this is another one of those programs that is working, and I couldn't be more grateful to the support we've gotten in the legislature to make that happen so fast. In terms of K through 12 education as well, this is something that is just directly linked to a community's destiny, if you will, and making sure that our students are on a pathway that fulfills their, hopefully, passion and purpose in life. And there's so many. This is one of those areas where our schools are offering so many different programs to meet the needs of a specific student. You can almost drown in this sea of acronyms or programs. So we're trying to make it easier to access, whether it's the JAG program that has about a 95% graduation rate attached to students who were maybe wayward or didn't have that purpose, didn't know what direction they were going to pursue, and they get into this JAG program, and all of a sudden they start to realize and see their path. And so we want to make sure that whatever it is that's offered in our various K through 12 system, that students are getting, they're seeing that pathway lit up at a very early age. And then we're making it very transparent, not just on this, in this playbook, but also with Dr. Jenner, with your GPS portal, making all this information available to the community and to local leaders so that they know not just rates, but what programs, businesses know which schools are offering which programs that they may need more students to be involved in their business. And then post high school, in this ever-changing workplace and work environment, we need to make sure that we're keeping up with those changes as well in the programs that the state of Indiana offers in terms of adults who want to reskill, in terms of adults that want to upskill, folks who have a change of mind in their profession. There are programs in place in Indiana that are making a huge difference. These are some of the most gratifying testimonials that you'll hear when you learn of the businesses that are taking part in the employer training grants, or the individuals who are taking advantage of the worker readiness grants, work ready grants, and tens of thousands of Hoosiers since we began offering this are reskilling and upskilling and getting into another line of work. And so we want to make sure that it's as simple as, whether you're an employee or an employer, you can go find what program that you need according to your pursuit. And it's, like I said, easy as clicking on it and getting involved. We're also blessed here in the state of Indiana in all of our backyards, close, with world-class colleges and universities. And obviously we have some 30 private institutions, but we've got research universities, Indiana University, Purdue University, Notre Dame, we've got Ball State, USI, ISU, the list goes on and on and on, Ivy Tech, Vincennes University, that are campuses in our backyards. And we want to make sure as a state, again, because of the legislature that has historically been one of the top 5 most generous states in terms of financial aid and assistance, making sure folks who are eligible can go on and pursue college. We want to make sure that we're all taking advantage of that, that when a student says, I want to pursue going to college, that they have the means to do so. And again, we want to make it easier for folks to access those programs, to access that financial aid, in addition to what we're doing with 21st Century Scholars, making sure that we're trying to maximize the programs that folks like Chris Lowry are saying, we're open and we're ready for more business, not just doing business as usual. I'm looking at Rick Wajda, and I mentioned Mark Fisher earlier, and they have said, no housing, no people, no jobs. And this is quite frankly, what every state in America is trying to fill those housing inventory gaps according to the different levels of affordability. And we've come a long way. We've got a revolving loan fund that we've recently signed into law, $75 million, and we've got a Ready 1.0 program that leveraged up about that $500 million that was appropriated, ended up being over $12 billion. $4 billion of that 12 was devoted to housing infrastructure. On a month-in, month-out basis, Indiana is issuing more single-family home building permits than every state that we touch, and we're always neck and neck with Ohio, and they're a much bigger, higher populated state than Indiana. So you can see that we're making gains like a few other states. We were the only state in the top 10 in the Midwest represented just a couple months ago. And so we got to continue to lean in, whether it's, again, urban, rural, or suburban, whatever the environment, we have to make sure that the housing is there for the citizens, residents, and ultimately the workforce. And then this piece of the puzzle, I think, is paramount in placemaking in the world in which we live in today. Oftentimes, we've all heard people choose where they're going to live before where they're going to work, and then they make that decision. I had the good fortune of sitting next to someone at the recent Colts game. I won't dwell on the outcome, but someone who I'd never met, and she was using her time wisely and lobbying for more trails and more trees and more outdoor amenities, even in the last 2 minutes. But I was polite. But she was right. I mean, the common denominator in a lot of growing communities is always the outdoor amenities and the vibrancy of a community. And because of Ready and other programs that are being demonstrated border to border throughout our state, we've made significant gain. And now we're known as a trail champion, as an example, or a leader in fill in the blank in terms of outdoor amenities. Obviously, our infrastructure platform or our ability to connect in every way is paramount to a state that finds itself located in the heart of the heartland, and one who seeks to support our logistics sector at large. Every which way we connect, we have to be making these investments, and they're not just state investments, but we're looking at how the state can complete that final mile from the interstate to the factory garage door. More broadband internet, more trails, making sure that our ports, both air and water, are sufficiently funded to continue to attract that freight business that is just so important to the future of our state. These programs go from a very high-level state approach or perspective all the way down to programs like community crossings that, again, make sure that we're able to complete that final mile. Can never lose sight of whether it's a local community or the state of Indiana, kind of the golden goose or what funds everything else, and that is making sure that we have a magnetic business pro-growth environment that is going to enable us to fund all the other pieces. And I see Secretary Rosenberg and our CSO, our Chief Strategy Officer, Ann Lathrop here, and they have made so much progress in making sure that you can use a portal to go into, whether you're an entrepreneur, a startup business, a small business, if you're looking for VC capital, if you're looking to export, there is a portal Connect, IND, that can send you on your way. And obviously, in today's world with the internet as it is, we can connect globally, and industrious Hoosiers are doing just that, but they're really taking it to the next level and making sure there's ease and it's a seamless growth pattern. And then lastly, I think we're underachieving if our target audiences, well, I shouldn't say lastly because there's one before that. Just as important as good schools, great schools, for someone who is considering where to move to, obviously safe neighborhoods are equally so. And we're increasingly making sure that our volunteer firefighters, for instance, have the training that they need, where there have been pockets throughout our state that were vacant or seemingly flown over. We're trying to stitch all that together to make sure that that one level, that one standard of training is in place for all of our firefighters, professional and volunteer. And then making sure that our state police continue to be resourced appropriately with labs of this century. They were literally doing DNA testing in garages not long ago, but now finally our state police and our law enforcement are not just paid what they deserve, but are also resourced appropriately for the work that they do, and then connecting with our local communities and partnering with them is something we'll continue to lean into. And then lastly, finally, we're underachieving if we're not getting the word out, if we're not connecting to all of our target audiences in terms of attracting people to come here to live, work, and play. And there's a number of programs, the In Indiana program, and Elaine Beadle is here with us today, who runs our Destinations Development Corporation. I've just put out a bunch of videos with the All Around Indiana program that highlights urban, suburban, and rural things to do, gyms throughout Indiana. The Economic Development Corporation has got a target audience all over the world that we're connecting with every single day to make sure that they know we're making investments in our on our economic development fronts, on our community development fronts, on our workforce development fronts. We've got programs like partners like MakeMyMove.com, and just want to make sure that everyone knows you got to sell every single day. That's what I always say, is I wake up every day and I try to take Indiana to the world and bring the world back. The same is true in Owen County, Indiana. I never would have known that the Dillinger gang hung out there, Marcy, had not you educated me on that at the chamber event. So having said all that, we now look at what are the updates that we need to make sure as this year begins to unfold going forward, in addition to making sure our partners have the Hoosier Playbook, and we're listening to what else needs to be on this list going forward over the next 12 months. There's 12 pieces and 12 months ahead, but we cannot take a day off or take a session off. And so we've got some legislative and administrative initiatives that we're also going to be pursuing over these next 12 months to make sure, once again, that we're seeking to take it to the next level. And no surprise, I said in 2017 that we were going to be almost religious about focusing on 5 key areas, the pillars that really hold up our state. And we've done that. We've remained focused on those 5 key areas. Obviously, those subjects may broaden or narrow according to the times, as fentanyl washes in or fill in the blank. But we've remained focused, and one of the key areas is making sure as our workforce is today, where we have a peak private sector employment level and historically low unemployment level, where we have 400,000+ Hoosiers that don't have a high school diploma or the equivalency of one, where we have over 100,000 folks who, about 140,000 folks who say they want a job, say they will work, but they aren't. And so how do we connect those folks? And you start to look at the different groups, and some of them are priced out of child care services. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to never sacrifice quality, for sure, but that we're making it more accessible, that we're making it more affordable. And here are a few ways that we'll be working with the legislative leaders. I see Senator Lysing, I see Senator Rogers, I see Senator Charbonneau, I see Senator Brown, I see Senator Carrasco. We'll be working with them and others to make sure that we're expanding the field, so to speak, to make sure that we have the workforce, the trained workforce, available, and that we're looking at bringing down cost for early learning services and childcare. We'll also be working on increasing our reading proficiency at all levels in those first steps of life. And obviously there's a number of things that we can do focused on tightening those retention efforts to make sure that we're not just understanding, but supporting the sense that you first must learn to read, and then you read to learn. And so we want to make sure that folks aren't put at a disadvantage in grades 4, 5, 6, and on when they haven't mastered that reading skill. So there's a number of initiatives that we'll be working on that get right at that issue. It's also been said very simplistically that the more you learn, the more you earn. And there's a lot of truth to that when you look at the correlation studies. And I say the more you know, the more dough. But this is, it all starts here. And we can't gloss over this. And this is holding, more important than us back, it's holding them back. And so we're gonna spend what it takes early on to make sure that later on their prospects and their opportunities are widened. We're also going to make sure that when you look through the lens of the customer or the student in this regard, we're going to be requiring our state universities, facilities, are looking at all their degree programs and offering 3-year programs where appropriate. Purdue is just one of our incredible world-class institutions, but they've really been a national trailblazer in reviewing their degree programs and then offering some that are 3 years, so that if a student can get through in 3 years and get on with it, that's available to them. And then we'll be also asking them to look at associate degrees. Oftentimes, having Purdue or having Ivy Tech and having Vincennes University, again, in all of our backyards, a lot of students are going through community college and then maybe they transfer to one of our state universities, and they don't get credit for that associate's degree that they otherwise would have earned now that they've been at Purdue or IU or Ball State or ISU or USI. And so we're going to reverse, we're going to look at this in reverse and say, what have you accumulated to date, and has that earned you an associate's degree and then pursue that so that it properly and appropriately reflects the skill level of our workforce. We're also rolling out, I see Whitney here with the help of the governor's workforce cabinet at large, a new program that we're calling One Stop to Start. And this really is in an effort to make sure folks are aware of all those, and I talked about it earlier, all of those different programs. So if someone says, I keep hearing about all this capital investment, keep hearing about all these new high-paying jobs, but what does it mean to me? What does it mean to my access to the American dream or realizing it? And the One Stop to Start campaign, and you'll think of it almost as PSAs that are coming, wherever you are physically or TV or radio, we're going to get the word out that we can help you skill up for the jobs that are there right now and that are available in your backyard. And so this effort is something that I think it's been kind of one of the missing links, so to speak. There's a lot of good work going on locally, different associations. The Indiana State Chamber has a program that does this, and obviously local communities, cities and towns have programs. We want to make sure that there is an umbrella as the state sees it, border to border again, that is making sure we're getting people plugged in so that they know whatever has interfered or intervened in their life and maybe gotten them off course, they can get back on, and there's people that are there to obviously help shepherd them along the way. We also want to make sure we've just taken more than note of the cumbersome process that it can be in responding to disasters, could be man-made or natural disasters. So we'll look at streamlining and some of that paperwork, so to speak, and make it easier for local leaders to respond in the now, not after the fact, not having it drag out. And so we'll be working with Senator Carrasco on this during the legislature to make sure that we've increased the limits as well for individuals to get access to those funds sooner than waiting on a federal declaration in the state of Indiana. Also, we'll be taking a look, actually creating a task force with a lot of different stakeholders to review the recent bail reform efforts and how they're impacting our public safety. And lastly, again, this is something that every state around the country is grappling with, is on both ends of the spectrum, kind of first steps, early childhood, and then our elders or more seasoned Hoosiers. And so we'll be working with various social service agencies to come together to look at the aging population in Indiana, not just Medicaid recipients, but an overall 10-year plan that is contemplating how folks are aging in Indiana, transportation, housing, economic security, all the factors that folks are, and therefore not just dealing with, but the state will have to deal with as well over the coming 10 years. And then we need to, as other states are as well, develop an infrastructure that best coordinates the delivery of services to high acuity children, folks who are the hardest to make sure that they're getting the services that they need and placed where they need to be. So again, I want to thank you all for not just being here, but for your years of work in all these different fields. I couldn't be more excited, quite honestly, about the 8th of 8 years and all that we're going to get done, not just during the legislative session, but then using this Hoosier playbook to make sure that we're improving. That's what taking it to the next level is all about, after all, is constantly seeking to improve on every front, again, to make Indiana the best place to live, work, and play. And with that, I think it's time to get back down to the State House and get to work. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.